because Russian nuclear doctrine says that Russia will not attack anything, will not use nuclear weapons unless the existence of their state is threatened. And by incorporating some of these territories into Russia, as illegal as it may be and unlegitimate among most of the people in the world's eyes, that could provide some pretext for escalation should Putin choose to do that. But what are your thoughts on what's going on in the South, Dave, and the fight down there?
I'm just really impressed with the Marine Brigade and Azov and Mariupol. And when Russia launched that last major offensive at the steel plant, and committed a lot of combat power, a lot of artillery, and a lot of their air power. You really had a feeling that it was ultimately going to break, and enable Russia to actually enter and start clearing it out, and it didn't happen. So just the will of those units, those Ukrainian units there, that hold off probably Russia's best coordinated assault, really so far, and repel it, and not only repel it, but reestablish their security and defensive posture. But like you said, that came at a really significant cost in terms of all their classes of supply. And if you see the pictures, because those guys have internet access still, right? Their phones are still working, and you've seen pictures of them. They're looking rough. It is really rough, and that's the one thing I think about when I think about Mariupol is how long can the human will withstand? And they've gone 77 days now. But man, it's rough, very rough for them, right? And so the violence at the tactical level is still incredibly violent. But on the flip side, Russia has really looking at two PTGs, some Chechens, and some Russian Spetsnaz in and around the city. They don't really control the city. Russia really has no significant control over the city at this point. And I think ultimately it just comes back to, I think Russia is going to redefine their strategic aim, and moving some combat power around to do that again. So I think they're holding out fine there. Further west, acknowledge a nuclear doctrine. Yeah, go.
Before you move on from Mariupol, I wanted to just reflect on a few things there. I think from a strategic level, it's hard to understate the significance of that garrison. And if you look back through history, remember the Alamo, or the 300 at Thermopylae. This is one of those chapters in military history that if that garrison had not done and continues to do what they continue to do, this war would have really been a lot different. You could have seen a huge envelopment potentially materialize of the entire joint forces command that the Ukrainian army had there, and the fact that so many forces were pinned down for so long and took so many casualties in Mariupol, and still have to worry about that garrison is hugely significant, not just militarily, but I think morally, spiritually for Ukrainian people, where this will be I think a foundation of Ukrainian identity going forward in a way that's extraordinarily powerful. And I think these soldiers definitely know that. They know that what they're doing could well cost them their lives, but it's going to probably play a huge role in saving Ukraine as a country and establishing the future. And it's massive, and it's something that I think it's really hard for us to wrap our heads around. Even those who've served before, you never know what you're going to do in a situation until you face it. But we all hope that we would just come close to what they're doing in that situation, and we're still looking for a miracle there, and we know that President Zelensky and his administration are really working on that as one of their top priorities, even though militarily now the significance of what's happening is gone down a lot. I think the moral, spiritual significance of it keeps going up for Ukraine. So, but it's a huge. It wasn't captured by May 9th. There was no big parade there, as a lot of people thought there would be, and it's still holding out. And I think this goes towards what we'll talk about at the end, which is May 9th, big letdown, Victory Day, and President Putin's, I think, crashing into reality is really important. What's going on? So moving on to the west of there, Dave. Anything from the other side of the Dnieper River?
Yeah, and I think that's where it's moved the slowest. Probably over the past week. Nothing's really operationally, strategically has really happened out there. Even tactically, it's more of an artillery slug out rather than ground forces maneuvering, and lines aren't moving. The lines have stayed pretty constant for 2 weeks with indirect fires going back and forth. And the interesting part is over on the Moldova border with Transnistria, and a little bit more saber rattling coming out of Moldova, out of Transnistria, and obviously it's right there next to Odessa. So everyone's still paying close attention to that. But I think Odessa, for me, continues to be the biggest surprise, that Odessa still, plainly Ukrainian, right? So, some Russian missile attacks from the sea still happening, but that's the volume of that is decreased as well.
Well, Snake Island is another episode of apparently 2 Russian patrol boats and a helicopter of special forces and a couple of air defense batteries were casualties of the fighting at Snake Island. And Snake Island is really important because it's literally just a rock. I mean, it's hard to call it an island. It's a big argument between Romania and